All right, folks, welcome back to Aggie Pride, a UC Davis football podcast. Nick King and I are driving home after a UC Davis victory at UC Davis Health Stadium, 50-34. Nick, other than being extremely tired, how are you feeling?
Man, I'm stoked. We got the 50 burger, got to see coaches, alumni, a fantastic outing from the Aggie pack. I couldn't really be any happier, honestly.
Yeah, I think I agree. There was many positives, always things to work on, to steal a phrase from Dwight Smith. We're winning and learning, which is what we want to do. What do you think, to go on a personal level, you know how we do here, what do you think you're going to remember about tonight, this afternoon, today? The experience, the game, could be a conversation, a player, an image. What do you think's going to stick with you?
There's really two things. The first is I was on the field, then I snuck away to get to the media because I'm now media thanks to you. And lo and behold, who was standing next to me was Coach Bronson. So I got to spend a quarter and a half getting his insight on plays, kind of just what is different today versus when he was coaching. So that was a real treat. And then the second, plugging the pod, I'm in the alumni room and I'm speaking with Danny Alfaro, and I hear Coach Big say Nick King. So I know that voice. I heard it on the Aggie Pride pod. So the fact that Coach Biggs recognized my voice and listens to the Aggie Pride, that's amazing. So those are my two big takeaways from the game.
Yeah. I mean, and I think my mind kind of goes there because there's so many different experiences that a game day can entail for all fans. If you're a student, if you're a parent or a fan or whatever. But I think when we're trying to do this, like when we're trying to, like, quote unquote cover the game, like as media, but then also running into buddies and friends and like trying to, you know, stop by different places. There's just a lot. There's like, the word that comes to mind is like, it's just very full. It's just very full. And it makes me think of even being like on staff at UC Davis Athletics, or like even the staff surrounding the program. Like we talked to Ari earlier this week, the equipment assistant AD, and it's busy days, dude. And so I think we're a little bit tapped, heading home, getting ready for a big Sunday for each of us. I know you got big plans, and so do I, but let's start digging into the actual game. Um, you know, when the game starts and opening kickoff, it's 14-0, like before we know it. And I think one thing that was a big part of Shredville 1.0 was tempo. And we talked about last year how that kind of changed the different iterations for Coach Plow when he went to Cal and Boise, like didn't have the full reins. But I think tonight is another example, especially when we're playing people at home. Like, we want to jump on people, and the crowd did show up. The student section was awesome. Michael, the Aggie Pack leader, was sporting the Aggie Pride hat, as was Darius Livingston and a host of others. But he had them clapping, he had them chanting, and they were all over the end zones and overflow sections on the east side and the west side where they're traditionally at, which was awesome. But dude, it is the ground game that stood out to me the most. Early and often, time and time again, chunk plays from Jordan Fisher, from Carter Vargas. What stood out to you about, I would say, the first quarter of the game when we really just stepped on the throttle and got after the Thunderbirds right away?
Yeah. I mean, as we talked about in the pre-pod, I really focused on the offense for Southern Utah, that is. And I kind of psyched myself out, to be honest with you. I was expecting a really dynamic offense. And as we talked about, it was really hard to gauge how the Aggie defense was. And from the start, there, as in Southern Utah's offense, was really out of sorts. We saw, I think, two bobbled balls. We obviously saw the big interception, which just kind of set the tone, but Southern Utah just looked really uncomfortable in the first quarter, and that was something that I didn't see when watching the film. So it was really great to see the Blue Force stand out because again, it was really hard to kind of read some of the challenges over the last 3 weeks. So that I think just the start of getting them off rhythm and then having that pick was a big start for the first quarter.
Yeah, and going through kind of the drive chart and the summary of the game, we scored touchdowns on our first two drives. Nate Richena, the pride of Monte Vista, and the Cal grad transfer, whose dad is a beastly looking man, as are many of the football dads, had another pick, another athletic play by the linebacker, and then they punt again on their third drive, Southern Utah, that is. Uh, but the end of the first quarter is when, even my wife, who's driving me home, thank God, so we can do this,
Yeah,
yeah, she's a media official, full season pass. You can count it. And she's like, crap, my score prediction's out the window after 14-0. And we realized, well, it might come back around. We'll see how the game goes. She was a 34-21. We had a host of predictions. Final score 50-34. I'll have to double check to see if anyone wins an Aggie Pride hat. But Southern Utah does go on to score not only two drives late in the first quarter, now that I'm looking back through it, but dude, they scored four straight possessions on offense.
yeah,
And the difference between their drives and ours was these are lengthy, beastly drives. There's a 16 play, 80-yard drive that captures over 8 minutes in the first quarter. And that's how the first quarter ends. It's like all of a sudden we're knotted up. And so shifting towards the second quarter and something that stood out to me, even as we looked at some stuff in the third when we were hanging out with Coach Bronson, is the total plays. At one
yeah.
point, Southern Utah had 63 plays to our 27. And we look at that
That's
and think, oh man, this is not good. But ultimately, we were up 9 when we looked at that stat. So, what did you make of like kind of that resurgence from the Southern Utah offense and some of the bright spots as we settled in the second half from the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I think one thing that stood out to us is, hey, how do we stop the run? That was a big factor for Southern Utah, and I think they were obviously dynamic. And I said this in the last, they passed or set up the run, and so I think we were really focused on that. So they were kind of gashing us. I mean, I think when we looked, they Dye was averaging 5 yards a carry. So I think you mentioned those methodical drives, but we were keeping things in front of us. And although they did score, they were taking the time. But I think transitioning over, I mean, what really jumped out, and I know we talked about this, is the D line. I mean, I was so impressed at how this defense is set up and just getting after the quarterback. One of the keys of the game that we talked about was getting the quarterback to hold the ball, not make his first read, have to question. And we did that on the secondary, and we were getting after it. I mean, Jacob Sack was, I said Jacob Sack, might as well be his
I like
name, but
that. I
Jacob
like
Sack
that,
was,
Nick. That's gonna stick. That's gotta
that's my,
stick.
Jacob Sack, yeah. Two sack fumbles, which is, and one of them was a huge in the second half because they were starting to drive. Sam Goligoski, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, Mr. Spin, just getting after the quarterback, Trankarad, MC guy. Um, they were just pinning their ears back and getting after it. And it was so fun to see. I just loved watching these guys play. So that just jumped off the screen, watching those guys play.
Yeah, the D line, we are partial. We are not impartial. We are very partial. We've had Trent and Sam on. We know they're best buds. I hate to say it. No, I don't. We had Jacob Sack on,
That's
and
right.
I think we probably need to get Rain Mayo on just to round out the four starting guys. But ultimately, the impact plays on defense were by the front four. And
Yep.
I think really the rush defense is a little bit something we're kind of squinting our eyes at, wondering about, because traditionally we have stuffed the run and traditionally we've played a little soft in coverage. and kept things in front of us. That is the Coombs way. He makes the offense earn it and waits for the mistakes. And the mistakes did come. The Nate Rachenna interception, the sack fumble from Jacob Syke, like they did end up coming. But, I think something we'll just continue to monitor is the rush defense. But ultimately, yeah, 2 sacks for Jacob, 2 sacks for Sam, a sack and a PBU for Trent Carrad, another TFL for Sam. So really impressed with the front four. And I do want to say it was 14-7 end of first quarter, and then Southern Utah started that long drive. Then
Yeah.
Jordan Fisher, scores, and they score right before the half, and it's 22-20, and we're kind of like, all right, is this a Northern Arizona, Southern Utah shootout about to happen again? And, I think the second half, in one play, Jordan Fisher goes 75 yards to the house, and we'll start really focusing on the offensive side of the ball. Not only did he go in one play, but then after the turnover or the punt return by Kalani Riddick, which special teams was a big part of the game, we'll touch on. Mitch Dixon, predicted by none other than Jan Larison, who was in attendance with the Larison real estate team, and of course head honcho Bob, hits pay dirt. And so just like that, it's 36-27, and we're starting to roll. But offensively, Nick, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was our run game. On the
Talk
pre-pod,
about it.
we're saying, dude, like we need to exert our will, and the stats are in. What do you think the attendance was?
On 15,000?
Kaylin, what do you think the attendance was?
Well, I know because they said it was over 17,000.
Wow, her silky pipes have made it on there. 17,217
Brock,
official attendance.
And you undersold it. You said that, hey, these are going to be students that are filing in from orientation. They're not going to know the game, but that wasn't the case. And maybe it was, but this was like a true Aggie pack. They were talking mess when they overthrew the ball.
Yeah, you're right.
They were in it the whole game, and not only that, but also the family section too. So that was perfect football weather, an amazing Aggie game day experience. So that was really nice.
Yeah, 82 at kickoff, full sun. The crowd, the energy, we complain all day. It's easy to complain in life. You can find things to nitpick everywhere, including this mom and pop podcast. But the school spirit and the energy around the place was palpable, man. Like it was really nice. And so that takes me back to exerting our will. Part of going to Seattle was just being in awe and intimidated potentially by the atmosphere, by the crowd, by the roof, which makes all the extra noise, by the tradition of Washington and the logo and all the things. And so I think for us to have that type of atmosphere, you actually told Kaylin when we were on the sidelines on the south end zone, you're like, dude, look at the quarterback for Southern Utah. He's got his hands over his ears to hear the play because now they have the coach direct, audio to the helmet communication. So like we actually had enough crowd noise, and maybe some of that is the piped in like Death Star, Darth Vader music, which I'm all about. But we really were able to get after it. The Hogs up front were creating spaces, and then I'm going to give you the floor to talk about the two-headed monster. No, I won't. I will talk about Jordan Fisher, but you will start with Carter Vargas because you were impressed with multiple things about his game.
Yeah, I mean, even starting at the UW game, what jumps off is his body control, and you just love that in a running back. And it sounds weird to say. You think of speed, you think of like the jukes, but really what it comes down to is when you try to tackle him, does he stay up? In Scattaboo, and this is a random thought because I'm a little punchy. Now the Giants at Sac State, before that, obviously ASU, that was one of his best skills is you cannot tackle him. And that's Vargas continuously did that where he not only was making 3 or 4 guys miss, and then he was outrunning guys. I mean, it was just from the Washington. I know there was basically no highlights except for his amazing run, and then did that several times. It was just amazing. Had the swag too once he scored. I mean, his
Yep.
body control is a thing of beauty. And my best friend Matt Fredrickson was on the sidelines for ortho. After that last touchdown he texted me and he just said, "Man, that dude is a beast," and he is. So I was just so impressed and so excited that we have this dynamic running ability.
Yeah. 6 carries, 136 yards, the 2 touchdowns. One was a 50-yarder, the other one was a 33-yarder. Dude literally averaged 23 yards a carry. Is that good? Yeah, I think that's good. Jordan Fisher's my guy. I've been preaching to the choir because most podcast listeners love Jordan Fisher too, because I've successfully brainwashed everyone. But it's not a brainwash when it's just true. We're just telling people, look at this guy. And he popped, man. The 75-yard touchdown run to open the second half. Talk about a tone setter. I mean, it's a 22-20 game. And even going into the fourth quarter, there's a little bit of trepidation. Like, this is a game. And we're sitting up there with like 6 minutes left, and it's 50-27. We're like, wow, 15 real minutes ago, we were a bit worried. And a lot of it is because of Jordan Fisher breaking out. 12 carries, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns himself. He was averaging 20 yards a carry after his first 6 carries as well, and then started bottling them up a little bit. But the pop and the combo of the two, because Jordan Fisher's RB1. He's clearly RB1. But Carter Vargas provides this bigger body, balance back element. That's a lot of B's. That's an alliteration. It's a repetition of consonants. And the reality is they're amazing together. Go.
Yeah, and not to mention, he also can. I think he had a seam, or he had caught a ball down the seam. So he's also great catching out of the backfield and deep out of the backfield too. And Brock, as a D lineman, it's hard to say. Obviously, the running backs are dynamic, but we have to give credit to Mike Cody, a former teammate of ours, coaching the O line. I know we've been a little tough on them, but they were opening up huge holes, and it was a big challenge. I know Southern Utah's had, I think, led up a lot of rush yards at USD as well as NAU. And so that was a challenge for this team. So I'm sure those guys really took it upon themselves. So I did want to also give credit to the O-line, as it's always, we see the flash and sizzle from the running backs, and it's well deserved, but I think the O-line did a really great job overall. And I know you're probably going to transition to talking about the running game, is that it was a 2-headed monster, but having Caden Pinnick back and having him run too was a really welcome dynamic, which we were kind of lacking in the last couple of games.
Yeah, and Caden, and I actually have had this thought too. I'm like, normally O linemen don't get talked about. I mean, we joked about Zaire Collier, the starting center who's got his own podcast, but we don't give him much shine. And so I've been wanting to do this for a while before we get to Caden, but Eli Simonson's the anchor, dude. He's the left tackle. He has been for the last 3 years. He's a transfer from Nebraska, 6'6", 300 pounds. My wife noticed his lovely long locks. Left guard Jason Rodriguez. I'm pretty sure he's the Stony Brook transfer, 6'5", 300 pounds. Zaire Collier, 6'4", 320. He's the center. He's the anchor. Nava's been there and started and experienced at 6'4", 300. And then I'm going to butcher this. And after the injury, I believe might have been David Main, might be messing that up too. David Porotisano, bless my heart, is the right tackle. And so experienced group. I mean, we're talking senior, redshirt, junior, senior, and then Porotisano, dear Lord, is a sophomore. And so that group, we did point the finger and go, okay, we'll see what happens. Mike Cody's a good coach, has experience with Mike Morosky at College of Idaho, who obviously is someone we know well, and coming back home to his alma mater, and ended up being the OC for a year, and then now back into his probably sweet spot of offensive line coach. So shout out Mike Cody, shout out that starting 5, because we were wondering, like, is this school record status? Like, are we
Yeah.
on that track? And David Collins will give us a thumbs up or thumbs down on that. I'm pretty sure it's not. I hope I'm not wrong on that. But just amazing effort. Last phase of the game, man. I often say it's not a third of the game, but it is an important part of the game. Special teams. The play that stands out to me, which really shifted, even the way we looked at it, like the fact that we're going in a halftime up to 22-20
Yeah.
was the 2-point conversion. So talk to us about that play and then some of the other plays that really set apart, an area that you were a bit concerned about going into the game.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-point play was huge, and then it put pressure on Southern Utah to then go for 2 to match that, which they didn't make. So we had a 4-point game, and even though it was close and we were a little more worried, that actually gave us a really nice buffer and awesome play design. I don't think I've ever seen that before, where it's a direct snap to the holder, and then he just ran up the middle. So they must have caught something on film. I know we're always looking for trick plays, but usually it has a lot more flash. That was pretty simple and worked better than you could imagine. And then, as we talked about, and I was really concerned that they had a dynamic returner. We effectively stopped him. I don't even think he had any significant return.
Nothing.
Yeah, yeah, nothing, which was great. So from just a special teams perspective, going up to not letting up any big returns, which I know was a concern, and we've had some challenges in the past. Didn't make any. We made all of our PATs, and then obviously, as you mentioned, just starting on the ball on this other side of the half on their side of the field is huge for our offense. And just setting the tempo, because as you mentioned, we're just relentless, and seeing that from the D line, the defense, the way we hit, the way we run. And then also now being able to return, it's just dynamic, and I think it really set the tone. And I like the idea of thinking Southern Utah's going back to the big sky, and they got to say, oh, shoot, Davis is for real, and they're going to hit us in the mouth in all 3 phases. So I think it's really worth highlighting how great our special teams unit was, both on returns as well as covering, because those guys are dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we look at the game, like from a 30,000-foot view, at least from like each phase of the game standpoint, like offense scores 50 points. I'm pretty sure we give that an A, not a
Yeah.
ton of room for improvement. Now, this defense makes us head tilt a little bit and go, we'll see what the offense continues to look like. Very impressive, very dominant run game, both backs super dynamic. And then circling back to Caden Pinnick's legs, there's 2 ways to gain yardage on offense, people. Newsflash, you can either run the ball or you can throw the ball. And throwing the ball, I wouldn't say was dominant A. I would say there was some inaccuracy. There was a couple sacks. He's a different type of quarterback, whereas last year Miles was so on time 80% of the time. Like he was just so experienced, so cerebral, and he did a great job of getting rid of the ball quickly. I think one of the things that Caden is so good at is extending plays with his legs. And we saw it time and time again, dude, like amazing plays. Like I'm sitting up there with Paul Bulware, a college friend of mine. He's like, dude, Lyric, my son is just hoping this guy sticks around so we can watch him for years to come because he's that exciting. I mean, I asked people in my little fun video I'm making on my nice camera pregame, like, who are you most excited to watch? 100% of the answers were Caden Pinnick. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say more so excited about him, who he is, his demeanor. I think he does have a good arm. I think he is doing a great job handling it from the mental side of it with all the things that Plow puts on a quarterback. And I think there's some room for improvement with some accuracy. I think there's some room for improvement with the passing game. But, as I say that, I think, well, we didn't have a ton of plays on offense and we averaged like how many yards per play? So we can try to nitpick stuff, but any other thoughts on Caden from your end?
Yeah, I mean, One of the plays I think was Jordan Fisher's touchdown, long touchdown or long run.
Oh yeah.
This is the second I've seen Caden run down and make a block, which is just and it shows a lot what he wants to do and what he's willing to do to help this team win. And again, I know coaches probably cringe at that, but it's just so cool to see him sprint down. And man, he can get going, and he actually let it rip a couple times when I'm talking about running. And he is fast. I think he almost caught. I think he got ahead of Jordan Fisher, which is obviously one of the fastest guys on the team.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And then in the second half, extending drives, third and long. I think he had back-to-back third and longs, just getting first downs. And that this just kills the morale of a defense and completely changes it. So you could see that they were completely dejected, and it was really great to see. Brock, question for you. What would you like? I know you kind of alluded to it, but like, what would you like to see in this next development for Caden? Obviously, the schedule is going to get tougher. They're more in-conference plays. What would you like to see out of them?
Well, it's interesting. And we're driving home. It's honestly pretty distracting the first half to like really get to see every single play. Like the games are really fun, and yet at the same time, it's a bit hard to like cover every single play like we did at Washington. At Washington, like Bobby and I are in the press box. It's quiet. You're like very easily can focus in and see the sets, and you have like the all 22 views, so you can see the coverages and all that. So that's why you and I had to pop up there. Like we just need to watch the game. Um, there's always a concern about like getting the ball out on time. There was some penalties after scrambles because it messes with an offensive lineman when they're blocking, and all of a sudden the D lineman tries to rip out of it, and you're holding on to him because that's what O linemen do every play, and they call a holding or they call a tripping. I think they did one time. So there's that aspect, but you kind of shrug your shoulders too. Like, well, you want them to do that. You want them to scramble. You want them to use your legs and that sort of thing. So that's a tough one. I mean, there was probably 3 passes in the first half that were off target that come to mind. I would say like in that mid-tier level, I don't know, from like 10 to 20 yards. So without seeing the mechanics and this and that, that's something for Coach Sheldon and Coach Plow to work with him on. But I think that's the like pretty easy answer. And then I think as I'm externally processing that, I would also say there was multiple downfield throws. There was one to Batu at the
Yeah.
beginning of the second half, I believe, that he missed on like a big search route. And I just think that there's some plays out there from an accuracy standpoint that he wants back. Now, we do need to talk about Winston Williams and that injury.
Yeah.
Kind of the 2 other things, and then I think we can wrap with our players of the game. The freshman impact and then Winston Williams.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll talk about the freshman, but I'll ask you, like, we have 3 legit tight ends. Mitch Dixon scores after Winston Williams had scored in the first half. We know Ian Simpson's dynamic, but like, what do you think it does? I don't know, team morale, like that being a deep room for an injury that I'm pretty sure this is a significant injury. I hate to say that, but just we walked past the tent, and I'm kind of grimacing.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of the game. As your good buddy Bobby, he had a terrible injury too. This just happens, and it's really
Yeah.
sad to see. I'm glad he got a touchdown and you got to at least have that part for him. I know it's gonna be tough. He seems like a great kid, and I know when you interviewed him, he wants to work hard and has a good attitude. So I have faith that he's hopefully going to come back, and if not, this is a really deep room. I think this is one of the deepest, and we've been hoping to see more out of the guys. And it looks like we had that. You mentioned the Dixon touchdown where it was an absolute banger at the goal line and scores, which was amazing to see. So yeah, obviously the morale is down, but this is football, and that's kind of the sad nature. So I think the team's going to be okay to move on it, and hopefully he comes back. We have a great staff, so I have the faith that the team's going to rally around him with the other tight ends and hopefully have him come back.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there, and we could be wrong. We don't fully know. I know that he's in a tracksuit. outside Bob Foster team room right now. So we'll see. I think something that when I was talking to Drew Cofield's dad, maybe third quarter, that just kind of struck me was, and I told him, I said, like, we don't play true freshmen early. Like, we don't play redshirt freshmen early. Like, traditionally, UC Davis is not the type of school that does that. Probably a variety of reasons for that.
Yeah.
But
Shout
four
out Byron
guys,
Grindle.
yeah, BG was a dynamic athlete. You couldn't keep him off the field. And I think that's when you do it, when you're like, well, we can't keep this guy off the field. And so Drew Cofield had a really strong game. He went down for a minute and gave us a little scare, but bounced back and played the rest of the game, was fine. Tyler Hennessy is the true freshman out of Orange Lutheran who showed some athleticism to me tonight and had a good game there at wide receiver. And then I think the two guys we already know about, they're redshirt freshmen, but to have Caden Pinnick and Carter Vargas in the backfield as freshmen making that large of an impact, I think just really impressive. And there's no, more complex way of saying, like, it's simple. It's a bright future when you got freshmen who are that impactful for the offense. So, yeah, I mean, we'll dig into Weber State, but we want to enjoy a hard fought win. And even Rocco pre-game's like, this is going to be a tough one. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a tough one. So I think everyone had a good level of respect for Southern Utah. It's time for our Before the Big Sky players of the game. We will start with Nick King and the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of led, but gotta say Jacob Sack Syke, Trent Karate, and Sam Garlagowski. And I probably butchered all three names, so I apologize. I mean, I think all three of those guys have a reason and a right to say that they're the players of the game on the defensive side. I mean, you listed the stats, and these guys were just getting after the quarterback, who was the player I was looking out for and the most worried about. And he was really stopped. So I think I have to give it to all three of those guys. I know it's cheating, but I was just so impressed with the D-line room.
It is cheating, and you threw me off, and so I don't have the other two schools, but who cares? We're going to give it up to Strake Jesuit, of course, the private school out of Houston, Texas, where Jacob Sack Syke played his high school ball. They played Wisdom High School, who was not very smart, dad joke, 48-9 final score, Strake Jesuit. The Fighting, what are they, Nick? They are the Fighting Crusaders. And they're literally the Fighting Crusaders. And I just was making up that they were the Fighting. All right, pretty cool. Others team that I'm going to give my game ball to, and it'll be joint just like yours because we want to make everyone happy. It's the two-headed monster in the backfield. When you're averaging like 18 yards a carry combined, yeah, that's pretty good. And so Carter Vargas
Yes, sir.
and Jordan Fisher are the Before the Big Sky players of the game. I've given Jordan Fisher's Portland High School some love, so I'm going to go to Santa Maria. We talked about St. Joseph High School, good little Santa Barbara County program. They beat Centennial out of Bakersfield 35-7 last night. So, Nick, closing thoughts on the game, the future, the past. You have the mic.
I mean, man, when you put up a 50 burger, as we said, we're probably being a little nitpicky. You can't complain against, especially a team that's coming into the Big Sky, that's historically been great, that has some great athletes. Fantastic home atmosphere. You couldn't ask for a better night game. Got to see Jordan Glass. They're a legacy tailgaters from their parents when Jordan was still playing, so got to see them. See Coach Biggs, got to see administration. It was just a fantastic night and a fantastic football. Brock, I do got to give a shout out to the receiver room. I know there wasn't necessarily any huge plays, but I did want to give Stacey Dobbins really stood out to me, and Sam Batu. Sam Batu I just feel like they've been kind of the unsung heroes where they always catch, they always get a first down. So I did want to at least say that was the one position group we did not mention. I think we mentioned everything else on offense, but wanted to just say they did a great job as always, and expecting more from them. But overall, just like a fantastic day to be an Aggie.
Yeah, for sure. Then that's a good call. I think my closing thoughts are one, you didn't mention Zach Jones, and he actually had the end around 11-yard touchdown run to kick off the scoring. And, dynamic kid out of Reardon High School who, when I was at a practice, Coach Plow I asked him about him, like, this guy seemed like someone who I would have expected to be playing earlier in his career. And he's like, yeah, like, just, it's finally clicking. And so to see that come through in a big way to kick off the scoring was cool. And then, I would say the other thing that we didn't mention is the Connors brothers, and Keith was looking yoked in the pregame tailgate as well. But who do you think led us in tackles? It was Rex. He was flying around.
Yeah.
There was a couple tough ones that he missed on, but like, here's the other thing I was thinking, because we were talking about it. Like, when you're always around the ball, you're not always in a perfect position to make the tackle. But when you have 13 tackles every single game, like, okay, you missed 2 tackles, you made 13 others. Like, you can't expect this guy to like bring home 18 tackles every game. So Rex had 13, Porter had 8. The D line were the difference makers from TFL, sack, turnover standpoint. But the Connors brothers are tried and true, man. And even Caitlin, who's getting a lot of shine on this one, she says, yeah, Rex Connors in person. Yeah, she gives like some swole shoulders trapezoid look, because the guy looks different. He does look different, and so does Porter. I think that's why they have an opportunity, especially Rex, to play the next level. Well, Nick, big thanks to you. I know you're probably pulling into the driveway. Hopefully,
Yes,
Lauren
sir.
and the baby are fast asleep. We are rolling into Martinez as we speak as well. And so, sleep well. Go Niners. And thanks again for hopping on this week. We'll figure something out down the road, because the people love Nick King in all ways. So thanks again.
Hey, thanks, Rod.
All right, man. Peace.